Hey guys, welcome to Exudes Excellence. My name is Limes and I'm here with Tasty Bacon.
What's up, everybody?
And this week we're going to be looking at Path of Exile. Now, Path of Exile is a game which recently went into open beta. It's developed by a New Zealand development company called Grinding Gear Games. It's always nice to have some developer love from my side of the world. It's an action RPG which is very similar to Diablo 2 in the way in multiple ways, actually. It looks like Diablo 2 in the kind of art style, and it actually plays a lot like Diablo 2. Compared to games like Diablo 3, it's not really the same, so it is nice to see some kind of old school gameplay in there.
Yeah, it's a nice... I felt it was a nice alternative to Diablo 3 when that was out, as far as where the gameplay fell. I mean, it has that darker, grittier feel than a lot of the ARPGs that are coming out now seem to go for.
Yeah, like, personally, I played a lot of Torchlight and Torchlight 2 before this. I wasn't really a big Diablo player. So Torchlight is all kind of happy-go-lucky with all the cel-shaded graphics and stuff. So coming to this was a bit of a step up in terms of the grittiness of the game. Now, the game itself is actually pretty deep compared to Diablo and other ARPGs. It has probably the most intricate character customization system I've seen in any game, full stop. We got some footage of the kind of things that you see in the game. The item system is extremely intricate, apart from the fact that loot drops are extremely varied. You can get items from pretty much most mobs with like any kind of modifications on them. You also have the ability to customize your weapons in the sense that there are certain items that you can pick up which allow you to kind of reroll stats and reroll item effects on pretty much any item. Even your mana and HP flasks, you can change things like how much mana they give you and stuff like that.
Literally every item can be essentially tweaked to the way that you want it, and obviously the inventory system is very familiar for anyone who has played games, again, like Diablo or Torchlight, things like that. So it's the things where everything has its own shape, and you actually have to play a little bit of Tetris to be able to pick up more items.
Yeah, another scary thing I just opened up on the gameplay here is actually the passive skill tree. Now, the first time you open this, it's absolutely daunting. It's this giant map of nodes which just spreads across the page. You literally can't see the whole thing zoomed out to the fullest. You have to actually move around this thing a lot. Basically, this is where a lot of the character customization comes into it. The passive skill tree is actually the same for every character, every class, sorry. The only thing that changes is where you start on the tree. So if you play a mage class, a lot of the nodes around your starting place will be kind of like mana regen, spell damage, and things like that. But there's absolutely nothing stopping you from running into kind of more varied class setups. Like, you can run all the way into the melee weapon damage if you want to as a mage and just run around whacking people. Yeah,
it really allows you to customize it and play the way that you want, no matter what you start as. I mean, obviously, as you mentioned, your starting area does kind of influence where you're going to want to go, but if you wanted to take the time and spend the levels to get out to the different areas, you can do that. You can play literally any way that you want to with the class. There is no anything like, oh, you're a mage, so you have to sit there and use spells, or oh, you're a melee tank guy, you have to be just this beefy wall, or things like that. You can start off as a marauder, which is one of the kind of melee tank classes, and end up going into spells or going off into attack speed and things like that.
Yeah, I have two main characters on my account at the moment. I have a general just beefy tank marauder character that I just run around whacking people with, and then I felt like being a little bit intricate, so I made I made a shadow and then just built myself into the bow kind of speciality and things like that. So I'm running around with a shadow with a bow and arrow, which is pretty weird. Another cool thing about the game is the kind of the endless replayability. The footage I have now is actually of it's interesting. This is actually like a fairly low-level boss. This is one of the bosses in the second act of the game. There are 3 acts currently. If you play Diablo 2 or Diablo 3, you'll understand what acts are. They're kind of just like story arcs in the game. But this is actually a kind of an Act 2 boss being played at level 60, which is around kind of what you'd expect Act 4 to be if it existed. But the idea is that you can actually go back and replay old levels at high difficulties, and they will have kind of higher monster levels and things like that. On top of that, there are things called maps, which are items that you can pick up, which again, that can be customized with all the currency items. And these are generally just like instanced areas that you can go in, either alone or with a group, and kind of just run through them to get more loot and things like that. So there's definitely some replayability once you do get through all the story. On top of that, there is actually a sort of like a small competitive community to the game, so to speak. Grinding Gear Games hosts things called races, which are basically you're given a certain time frame, say an hour or a day or a week or a month even, I think, and you have to get the highest level you can within that time frame without dying. And there are some pretty interesting builds based around this idea of getting the max level they can within a certain time frame.
Yeah, and there's even some races that they do are actually team-based, where basically you group up with a certain amount of people, and all of you in that group try and get to as high of a level as you can. So they do have there is a small competitive scene kind of brewing from that a lot of people are liking, with the hardcore aspect of being put onto the races, just making it even higher of a risk reward, because you want to level up as quick as you can, but you still need to be safe, because if you die, you're done. So there's their forums have a full section just dedicated to the races and the competitiveness. Even though it's not really direct PvP, it is still getting competitive.
Yeah, one of the funniest races I heard of was what they were calling the lethal race. Basically, what they were able to do is make a kind of like a server-wide mod, something that you would normally see on like a map, which pretty much covered the whole map that everyone raced on. And basically what it caused is every single mob to have like 50% higher crit chance and like 50% elemental damage on all their attacks, and like 50% extra damage, and people were literally dying in the tutorial stage. It was ridiculous. People would run up to the tutorial boss and just get two-shot by this guy. It was probably one of the funniest things I've seen.
Now, earlier you had actually mentioned something about currency items, but anyone watching the video, you'll notice that there is no gold or coins or anything like that. So how do the currency items kind of play into it?
Yeah, so basically the currency items are the items which I talked about before, which let you kind of re-roll your gear and the stats on your gear and things like that. Instead of having gold, they have these currency items, obviously, and these can be either got through vendors, through certain recipes. You can like give them certain items and they'll give you certain currency items, or usually you just pick them up from the ground from mobs. Now each currency item has like obviously a drop rate, so like an item like an identity scroll, which you'd know from Diablo 2 simply identifies rare items, is pretty common. Like most mobs will drop it every once in a while. And you can go all the way up to things called exalted orbs, which basically completely I'm not completely sure of what they do, I forget to be honest. But like items like those are extremely rare, and then you can even have mirrors which allow you to completely copy a piece of gear, which are pretty much unheard of. But the idea behind this is that you're spending items to make your gear more powerful, obviously, or at least hopefully make your gear more powerful. And they kind of earn their rarity through the fact that A, they're hard to find, and B, because they get spent on gear, you kind of need them to progress your character. So the idea is that instead of having like a gold-based economy, they have more of a barter-based economy, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, it really does, because of the way that it's done with like that. There is the economy is driven by the player base. It's pretty much the players decide how much something is worth to them, and it goes from there. So that's how the value of items gets created. It's really pushes the, I guess, theme of the game, in that you're actually exiled on this island, and that's how the game begins. Is you're on this small little beach where you just got exiled to, and so that explains why there is no gold currency, and it is just the items that you're trying to. You and the other people that are alive are these survivors, and so you're really just setting your own prices and things like that.
Another thing I want to touch on very quickly is the microtransactions in the game. Because the game is free to play, there could be some issues with, oh, what if the developers are offering pay-to-win options? But there is literally no microtransaction option, like kind of real money purchase you can make, which buffs your character up. They're all entirely cosmetic items, which is actually pretty risky, but it has paid off for them, and it does make the game like that more hardcore and that more fair for people who put the time into it. That's all the time we have for this week. We hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We hope you play Path of Exile. It is a good, fun game. And we'll see you next time on Exudes Excellence.
Be sure to like the video, subscribe to us, and follow us on Twitter. If you have any feedback, please just let us know. We're always happy to hear it.